In the world of Len, a great war between the continents of Evros and Elkish is forcibly brought to an end by the Tempest, a cataclysmic storm that rages over the surrounding oceans. An uneasy peace has been solidified, but over the last 2 centuries a cold war has frozen the hearts of many. A group of adventurers calling themselves the Hydra have joined to thaw out the ice. Their mutual friend has been slain, and now their quest to solve an ages-old mystery truly begins. Blood is hotter than water, in a debt to a friend. A homebrew campaign.
Having been relayed the plans to infiltrate the Sewer King's ranks, we decide that we're going to use 3 hours to plot away. Cornelius attempts to sound more like a pirate, and he rolls a deception check of 20. And he seems to sound fairly pirate-like. He uses his disguise kit as well on his person to make himself look like the Russian airborne forces of the VDV. Now I had to look this image up, and in a way it does it does actually quite suit the character. And he has it in such a way that his gut is hanging out of his striped blue and white tank top. We talk about our cover stories and decide to retell, perhaps from a different perspective, the story of Hydra, or rather Medusa, which I've sort of been thinking because Hydra, in my opinion, sounds is short for High Yield Demolitions Reconnaissance Agents, and Medusa is just off the top of my head, it was like men entertaining dreadful under-specialized actions. Cornelius decides his code name is his alter ego is Willie Pete, which perhaps some viewers may not know this, but Willie Pete is the code name for white phosphorus, a sort of chemical powder that ignites with the air and burns a lot of things in the nearby vicinity. If you've played Spec Ops The Line, well, if you haven't, I've just spoilt the game for you. Ragnar takes the name of Thor, the World Breaker, to complement Odin, the Raven. Very nice. And I take the name of Audley B. Larson, which is a combination of the makers of WD-40 and Swarfiga. We pack away some of our things. I put my uniform into the bag of holding along with all the meat, and Cornelius puts away his holy items. I don't know how that's going to interfere with his spell casting, but we shall soon see. With a perception of 23, I noticed that as we're getting ready, a few figures see us, but otherwise just carry on with their day. Ragnar says to Nero to stay out of trouble if things go sour, and Nero asks, "And how will I find you?" To which Ragnar, or rather Thor the Worldbreaker, responds by saying, "I will use my war gong to show you, to signal you to come back to me." And so, it being a fairly unique instrument, he bangs the gong slightly, and so Nero understands and swoops away. Thor and the Raven go back into the tavern. Ragnar, or Thor, asks about Robbie, to the barkeep. And he says, "Look, I don't want any trouble." So Odin asks about Robbie around the pub, buys some drinks, and says that he was hired to move product. "Well," says one of the thugs, "if you were hired, you ought to hightail it off the docks." The thugs start sniggering. We know that the docks are about a half an hour away, and eventually we make it, after running as fast as we can, to get to what we think are the correct docks. It's dark, it's raining, and we see cargo boats that aren't quite too deep into the water. It is quite merciful that should we fall, it's not going to be that deep a sink. Odin stumbles due to his lack of dark vision, as does Cornelius, the blind leading the blind. And we eventually approach a ship that seems to have a fair bit of activity around it. There's moderately armoured figures unloading crates, eyeing us warily, and amongst them as well, smaller robed creatures. Odin says that I'm looking for a man that goes by Robbie. "And what is your business with this guy?" "We were hired to move product." "Is that so?" "Well, maybe we do have product. Who are you?" "I'm the Raven." I don't know what accent I'm doing, I keep forgetting what it is, so I do apologise. With a passive perception of 16, he hears one of the people at the back stifle a laugh. "Some product does need to be moved. I need to move it through the sewers if you're up for it." The Raven responds by saying, "We were hired for a job. We're here for a job. This fucking job." We see smaller creatures haul something on carts, preparing the cargo, but we're unable to see what it is from the distance. "Alright. Get these items of cargo where they need to go. We can talk about payment. Where's Robbie? Are you here to do this job or not?" And I've put here, in Birminghamese, "I'm fucking standing here, aye." So, Rakanar rolls intimidation to say, "We're here for the job." He rolls 19 and the guy stands unblinking. "Well, I hope we do better than the last guys." He explains where we have to go. We're to follow these robed creatures and the cargo. As long as they get through, follow them. And if for whatever reason they go down, make sure the stuff gets where it's supposed to go. The cargo is wheelbarrows, carts, which the smaller creatures take. Rakanar takes a step closer. "Half now, half later." 14 persuasion gets him. "Maybe if the contents are delivered, we'll give you a bonus. But a reputation needs to be established. It's about trust." Odin laughs at this comment and moves past. He notices these humanoids aren't these aren't humanoids, but they're not halflings either. Rather, they're humanoids. They aren't humanoids, and they're not exactly the size of halflings either. Perception 12 tells him nothing more. One with a robe says, "You are protection, yes, yes." "Yes." "Yes, good. We go move now, yes, yes." Question. "What are you?" One of the small figures, looking at him, picking up his card, says, "We are the end come. We are the beginning time, yes, yes." I do like these. I have added in some words to this as well, otherwise it would just be a lot of yes, yes. And my character does actually have a bit of fun with this, and I go yes, yes to just about everything they say. So I roll perception to find out what they are, but the hoods are too far down for me to see. They appear to be using a mask to hide their features as well, so whatever they are, even underneath their hoods, it's still going to be hard to tell exactly what they are. We descend down the lefts, and Willie Pete, Cornelius Bonaparte, asks, So, you've been with this crew for long?
We have been in her light shine since eternity times, yes.
Willie makes some crude remark about his Mrs. Light, yes. Silence follows. He asks about the cargo, and with a 21 charisma, his innate personality reveals the precious cargo. So even though, like there's something magical about Willie Pete's personality, and that even he can get information from people. I do like as well that charisma checks are being used rather than just persuasion or intimidating. That it's like the raw magical force of personalities coming into play here. And he's asked for a name.
Scree! Mine is Scree, yes. Soon her fallen angels folk shall rise and march against God, yes.
Willie agrees and slaps Scree on the back. The feeling isn't fleshy, but hard and chitinous. Now I had this figured out as to what they were, but I've got to try my best not to give that away now. But yeah, we'll say, for the time being, they're Skaven. You know, they're not. But I like that they have been made into Skaven. There are actually some rat beings in D&D, like were-rats were in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, Waterdeep in general. But yeah, lots of anthropomorphism, at least in that sense of transformation. It's quite big in D&D. Werebears, wereboars, all manner boars, were-rats, werewolves, of course, and lots of polymorphing as such involved. So, anyway. So there's six of these little guys, 4 on the cart, and 2 of them may have weapons upon their person. We descend down vast caveworks and sewer networks for miles. No torch or dark vision can cover the labyrinthine network. It's a city in and among itself. Skaven. Can this even be navigatable? The journey continues downward for a good 15 minutes, and even as we look down, there's levels below us. As if by random, the lift that's taking us down this door that we've gone through in the docks down into the underneath Drummouth. It stops in front of a sewer tunnel. The creatures lead the way, and we insist on moving for their lady person and their good god. Willie asks who is their god, and a head turns to him.
She who brings truth fact, yes. He who shall bring the Shadow Knight, who will kill the false angels, yes.
He asks for more information, and with a 20 persuasion, the creature looks as if to answer, and one of them puts its hand on it. It's a much larger creature now. Its claw is nailed and has 3 fingers and a sort of a nailed thumb.
Be wary of false herald folk, yes. Yes, of course. I forget her teaching lessons, yes.
Thor looks for the alpha among them, and with a 5 insight, he can't tell for sure. I step away for a second, but it appears as though the Raven has been looking at the lift. Intelligence 6 tells him that it was rickety but otherwise safe for the time being. We look around. The water is 5 foot deep, and while areas have been collapsed in this part of the sewer, this part of the sewer is fairly decent. Thor is looking around, listening to the sounds. A robed figure, all of a sudden, is dragged into the distance with a figure that makes a shrill squeal. He rolls again with advantage. 13 perception, but he fails to notice anything. Odin's passive perception just manages to see one of the creatures next to him get dragged into the darkness. It's like a wet tentacle taking them away. Bones crunch sickeningly as the little creature with a snout and slit eyes look back at him in terror. A shambling hulk of tentacles and teeth and foul rot begins to press itself through the gates. And most of the characters here, except really myself and Odin would recognise this. It's an Otyugh, and much bigger than the one we saw before. Roll initiative. Yes, yes. Willie Pete rolls 22, the Otyugh rolls 20, the Armour Bros roll 20 and 18, Thor rolls 13, the Raven rolls 12, and myself, Orderly Butterbar Larson, rolls 2, as well as Rigsby, aka Mr. Pickles. Round 0, Willie shoves Scree beneath the cart as he yells for the others to get underneath the carts. He launches a bolt but misses the Otyugh, by saying, "Thor, watch out!" The Otyugh launches a tentacle out at one of the larger creatures, grabbing him successfully, crushing him as it launches its body across the room. It then tries to bite at Rakanar with titanic jaws coming thrashing down to grab a hold and hit with 18. He takes 12 points of piercing damage as the giant maw envelopes him, the teeth piercing into him. He rolls a constitution save, and with a natural 20 plus 6 he manages to fight back against the pollutants of its hideous bite. He uses its final attack to make a hideous tentacle against Odin with a 21 to hit. It does 11 damage and grapples and restrains him. Now in the first round of combat proper, Willie uses Dissonant Whispers, taking 3d6, causing the Otyugh to take 3d6 damage and has to run away. The Otyugh retreats, taking the Raven with him. One of the creatures uses next to Scree uses the hide action, crawling beneath the cart. The Otyugh shakes off its psychic effects and decides to eat the morsel it has in its tentacle. An 11 misses, deciding not to bite itself at the chance of trying to bite its prey. One of the creatures runs ahead to join the fray. Thor runs ahead, rages, and swings his great axe after skidding into the beast. He rolls a 14 to hit, dealing 9 slashing damage to begin with, and then an additional 18 points of damage with his extra attack. Now the great axe, because it transforms into a great axe and longsword, it does an extra d6 per attack against this large aberration. It does an extra d6 against smaller aberrations, dealing 9 damage. The axe, for whatever reason, glows in his hand. Odin second wins, getting back 8 HP. He rolls 14 at disadvantage to hit with his blunderbuss and still manages to launch one of the shells at the monster, dealing 15 piercing damage as he gets off a lucky shot to shoot the Otyugh. Meanwhile, Rigsby and I move up, covering the rear. In the second round of combat, Willie Pete says to Scree, "Stay here!" as he runs off, takes off running 30 feet to a torch. He uses Healing Word at 3rd level for 9 HP. I have to give this to Cornelius. He is not shy to use those higher level spells immediately as well. The creatures, the hooded creatures, then roll stealth. The Otyugh, seeing new targets to wrap around the armoured creature, it rolls 21 to successfully grab him, dealing killing blows that is crushed and slammed into the ground. He bites Rakanar and deals 9 points of piercing damage, and Thor now uses his Bardic Inspiration, now D8, to minimise the effect of the poison as the words of Cornelius rally him on. Scree hides, and we hear at that point a roar coming from behind us. Thor slashes at his target, dealing 17 with his first attack, another 20 on his second attack. Odin, having his blunderbuss reloaded, thinks he's got a good shot, but he misses as he's at disadvantage. I get into Overwatch, ready to attack a foe coming from behind, while Rigsby helps Odin. Now I was hoping that the help action would help him get out of the condition of being restrained or grappled, but never mind. We'll soon talk about that. In the third and final round of combat, Willie uses his Shield of Faith upon Odin, granting him a +2 to AC, and tries to make a shot but misses the Otyugh again. The smaller creatures move some carts, knowing I'm protecting them. I react to the new Otyugh coming from the southwestern side of the map, and launch 2 shots and roll Intimidation, 16 + 6, as I manage to scare it away. Thor rolls 26 to hit with his great axe, rolling 17 damage, slaying the Otyugh. Odin, the Otyugh's group released, comes back into the central chamber. I keep overwatching how Rigsby attach himself to the cart, getting ready to move on Scree's command. Oh, I see, yeah, so I think that's the end of the combat, actually. Yeah, so I'm keeping Overwatch, having scared away the Otyugh, underestimating the noise of the hand cannon. But I'm otherwise fine so far. Ears ringing a little bit. The creatures then take the carts and gingerly count again. Go around the slain Otyugh, moving past it as far as they can, trying now to run away. So we're out of combat for the time being, as we've successfully scared away the other Otyugh, so that's good. Thor decides he's going to take one of the carts, and it's a bit slow with Willie Pete deciding he's going to ride on top of it. He has to roll a dexterity saving throw, natural 1 + C to run on top, but he gets bucked off and falls on his ass, taking 3 points of bludgeoning damage, as Thor really wants to get a move on. I heal Thor for 6 points with a first aid kit, and he asks Willie if he wants to open up a crate, to which Pete is unsure of this. We've got to make it there alive. With a strength of 3, Cornelius can't bang the lid open. The Raven and I hear this, but the others do not. The other creatures ahead. Yeah. And I say, oh, for God's sake, if you're going to do it properly. I hand him, I've put a crossbow, but I think I meant a crowbar, to help him roll with the strength check with advantage. And he's putting his entire body weight on this, as he's trying to open up the nailed up crate. And with a 14 he manages to get it open. I fire a shot to mask the sound, and I roll 19 acrobatics to leap onto the cart and inspect the goods. They are blue, glowing, and cold. A blue light shines out of the side, and the carts ahead are going much further, and they haven't yet detected our spying yet. The light blinds me slightly, but I blink it away. It's crystal, but no, it's not meth. That's the other reference I had to make if you were watching the previous video I just put up. I know it's a type of crystal, however. I've rolled a natural 1 Arcana to find out what this is, but I can't figure it out at all. There's something itching in the back of my head telling me what it is, but I don't know. I seal the case back up with a sleight of hand check of 18, and it's a perfect job at even getting rid of some of the newer blemishes caused by our opening of it. In our mad dash, we finally catch up to the creatures taking the carts, and we board a lift. The creatures throw a lever, and we go flying down, even losing control of gravity as I start floating through the air. Ragnar manages to get control as we land, but we're all knocked prone, saved of damage. I ask the creatures where we go now. Just as I'm about to join them, Odin says, no, you're going to wait and you're going to answer our questions. The creatures look and say,
you are hired to protect, guard, not ask talk questions, yes.
And the Raven responds, that's my issue.
I ask questions,
yes. Scree looks at him.
No time!
They now look visibly nervous and move forward again. I tell the group what I think it is, and Ragnar, or rather Thor, has a light bulb moment. Is this the ice from the butcher's shop, or is it similar? An Arcana check of 17 tells him that he's seen this around the airship docks. We roll survival. I roll 21, the Raven rolls 6, Willie rolls 8, Thor rolls 17. So we're trying to figure out now the route to the place where these little creatures are going. And so, with my dark vision, I'm giving directions as the party's just about getting lost, and Willie tells the Raven to catch up. We're almost there, keep going! The creatures dump their carts into a river of muck, and we see the passengers to the left and right. They run ahead, about to round a corner, and start to disappear out of sight. We follow on, and we see the creatures bow their heads in supplication, and it shimmers slightly as they step through the wall. Scree turns to us.
Bring cart vehicle, yes, yes.
That was a pretty bad one. Cart vehicle.
Bring cart, barrow. Bring cart. Thing. Man thing, yes, yes.
Odin walks through the wall, as do we all. It's a sick, cloying sensation as our very matter twists and stretches and then recombines as we arrive. We're in a room that was once used for maintenance, as there's extremely comprehensive maps as well as cots and crates, a burnt out fire pit, and the ceiling goes up right about 60 feet. It may have been what we know as a former storm drain, but that's about it. What grabs my eye immediately is the running figures of Scree in the cart, running towards some robed figures. Very familiar robed figures. Session 2 robed figures. They stand with hounds made of broiling flame and magma, and in the centre is a large orc. A rather angry looking blood eagle perched on his shoulder.
Orcs, 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 orcs.
The orc turns to us, and Scree turns to the robed ones.
We brought you the goods, master. Yes, yes. We have brought you the gifts for the lady person, good master.
Yes, yes, I can see that. Very good. Goric, I believe these hired hands are your responsibility. The orc turns to Rigsby, or Mr. Pickles.
The cart. Leave it in the centre of the room.
Scree just put the carts down the side of the room, and one of the figures starts an incantation on one of the walls as it flares and distorts. It's a lot more violent than the other, and it spins with blue cloud emitting from it. One creature runs through, and Scree turns to Cornelius.
Sorry, apologies. Yes, yes.
To which Willie Pete responds, Scree? Scree! The carts get telekinetically moved through the portal. This one, one of them is, by the way, still attached to Rigsby, and is slowly getting pulled, and so I decided to say, oh, quickly, I'll put down, do that. So I unfasten it from Mr. Pickles. Thor asks of the orc what this is in his language.
It's business, and it's booming. A good job deserves payment, wouldn't you say?
He agrees. He pulls out a pouch and throws it. Rakanar attempts to catch it. He catches it deftly and puts it aside.
I think there's more where that came from if you're interested. Not many of the others survive this journey. That's why we're getting a little desperate to bolster our ranks. There's more work, should you want it.
And to which he responds in Orcish, we're not the regulars.
Oh yeah? Who are you then?
We're from Medusa. We've been able to succeed in similar businesses.
Medusa, I can't say I've heard of this particular band.
We're from further away. We do specific jobs. The orc mulls it over.
You are able to complete this one, so I think I can give you the benefits of the doubt. But I'm going to need more details.
The portal snaps shut as the last of the crates goes through. The robed figures begin chanting. Instead of drool, the dogs release molten magma. Our deal continues.
Aye, the deal continues.
Good. We'll leave you to your new associates. The robed figures are indeed similar to those that we saw in the Temple of Vulca, and they are cleaner from the detritus of the sewer. As for Goric, he's pretty jacked and a head taller on Thor. Thor rolls 9 to look him over to see if he's killed in the past. and he doesn't care. As Thor does this, he realises he hasn't spent as much time with the orcs as he thinks he has. The muttering from the cultists continue their ritual from the far end of the room. They're beginning to step through. It doesn't have a blue tinge to it, but a black, roiling shadow. I ask the cultists, "Can my dog play with your dog?" And one of the dogs jerks its head, starts wagging its tail. But Mr. Pickles goes up and wags his tail too. One of the cultists said, "There was an issue with the last shipment," conversing as they talk to one another. The hellhounds continue to watch us. Thor says, "Yes, to more work. As you can see, my operation here bears fruit. I'm Gotrek Fellhand. I forgive me, I didn't quite catch which one it was. But you may know me by my other name, the Sewer King. See, they call me a king 'cause I rule these parts. Now my new associates over here are making things lucrative, but we're having growing pains with my expansion. How'd you feel about helping me out?" Another portal opens up, and a robed figure arrives, conversing again. They come and go as do the portals, as they move crates back and forth. I roll 17 investigation to look at the tables, weapons, some alchemical stuff, and maps. I can see more maps of the sewer, and routes are being penned as well as text. See, there's a Red Crest captain who's disrupting my operations. I don't know why I've all of a sudden gone for the Dudley accent, but here we are. I was wondering if you could remove him for me. What is his name? This is all going on in Orcish, by the way, so no one else but Ragnar, Thor, understands this. I see his name. He jerks his head to the side and asks, "What was that tosser's name?" He doesn't hear anything come back. "Ah, yes, thank you. Captain Jansen. So as one of my boys slipped up in a mugging, lost some information. Somehow this got into his hands, and my sources tell me that he's calling in a couple of favours from the other precincts to gather a task force, take me out of my own fucking kingdom. See, I've managed to loosen a few lips, put some coin in their right hands in order to lose the red crisps. But he's the only one who's managed to get some momentum. I need you and your little gang here to remove him from me. When you do, this city'll be mine. And when this city is rightfully mine, the king rewards his faithful subjects." "I understand," says Thor. Odin smokes his pipe leaning on a wall. "So, do we have it?" A robed figure approaches Gotrek, and the hellhounds approach it, ignoring Mr. Pickles from before. "Did you say something?" Says Reckoner. No, sorry. "Right, but I want your decision." That was in response to something that I can't remember what it was, like a sleight of hand check, maybe. I think it was like gonna like draw his axe or something like that, and someone was drawing a weapon, and like the sound of it leaving the sheath had alerted him. Thor tells us what's happening, which requires some prompting. He doesn't know whether to tell us all of this, and he summarises and gives us the full story. I will say now, because this is something that the Rakanar's player had a lot of difficulty with, and I want to say now that only he heard this and he had to make a call. Okay, what follows is not his fault at all. Okay, he's a fantastic role player. We've all said this before, that he is a great role player with like hearing what he's got to say and contribute to the group. And to say he's new to D&D, he does a pretty damn good job when he gets involved. So, don't worry about it. We've all had to make these decisions. We've all had to do things for a party. And if you haven't had to do that, you will. One day you will be the one who has to make a call. And only you. Or you have to make the deciding vote. So the Raven says, "Bastard nicked a couple of my friends. Fuck him, I say." He doesn't want the captain dead, and while he has a dislike for the captain, he doesn't hate him. I reluctantly agree to this, thinking, okay, I think I can come up with a plan. But it's gonna have to work on this first stage, otherwise all cover is blown. In fact, even our characters might die if this first stage doesn't work. We'll get around to that near the end. So, Thor says, "We accept the job. But first, how do we reach you if we have evidence of his death, or his removal?" The Sewer King, Goric Fellhand, looks to Reckon and says, "Good. Good. Jansen and his precinct are a thorn in my side. I'm gonna have to take some insurance out." He speaks in common. "One by one, I want you to put out your arm." "What for?" "Trust. Trust from our latest associates." Oh, blast it! And so, Willie Pete puts his arm out. And Goric says, "Mark him." Watching. One of the robed figures goes up to them and marks him, as Cornelius watches him in the eye. He feels blood pouring out of him as it coagulates and percolates, turning into a greyish, rusting colour. The ritual continues as the blood soaks back into his skin. He falls to his knees, whimpering in pain. The hooded figure looks at the rest of us. Ragnar moves up, or rather Thor moves up, holding a strong face. Once again the hand goes out, and his arm has orcish green blood rise out of his arm, his vitality sapping away. He looks straight ahead. His eyes bore into the man's skull as the blood takes a rusted, putrid colour and sinks back into his arm. "Next." I say, "Oh, get over there, you coward!" I roll up my sleeve and just put it forward, and I'm trying to figure out what this is, so my analytical mind distracts me from the pain, but it's not quite enough as the ritual continues. All I know that this is some kind of blood rune, where a magical spell is implanted on me through my blood, much like a single-use rune would be. Finally, Odin steps forth, blowing smoke from his pipe into the man's face. He takes his blunderbuss out to take the hood off. With that, we roll initiative. One cultist rolls 21. The second cultist rolls 19. The third cultist rolls 16.1. The Raven rolls 16. Another cultist rolls 15. Willie Pete rolls 12. A Magma Hound rolls 10. A Magma Hound rolls 9. I roll 6 and Thor rolls 5. In the first round of combat, thank goodness the only round of combat, Goric rolls 27 to hit with his mace as he looks at Odin and goes, "What the fuck?" Shoving him back 10 feet, almost knocking him over me and into the pool of spew behind us. He causes 20 points of bludgeoning damage and he yells, "What the fuck are you doing?" He responds, having caught his breath, and Odin just says, "I just want to see the face of the fucker who was going to brand me." Goric turns to Thor, saying, "I wanted professionals, not amateurs."
It's non-negotiable.
To which Odin responds, doing it without the hood is non-negotiable.
I'm starting to think you're not worth the price I was willing to pay.
Yeah? Well, we're the only fucking ones to get through that fucking mess of a fucking cavern. The Sewer King responds,
Take the mark or die.
can I take the mark and see his face? Odin spits blood, holding it. And with that, the Sewer King just puts his one arm around his neck and holds a dagger there. The other hand pulling his arm out. And Odin says, I've seen bigger. And puts his arm out. It rolls a constitution save of 18 as the blood begins to pour out of his arm. It seems like in his slightly diminished state, he struggles to maintain consciousness. He just pushes through. The blood goes back into his arm. It says to Gorik, it is done. Gorik moves back and turns to Rakanar, saying in Orcish,
Control your tribe.
to which Thor responds by saying, my apologies. We are all marked with the blood rune. Cornelius backs to the wall, and it shimmers as the cultists watch on. He goes through the portal and feels a lump in his arm. He finds himself not in a sewer, but in the back wall of the Skull Club Tavern. Rakanar, being the final one to leave, or next to last to leave, gets a parting message.
Bring proof to the Skull Club Tavern and wait.
Rakanar goes through. Odin goes to the portal, smiling devilishly as he walks through. The Sewer King smiles back. A con save is now required, and he fails even with a 15, as Odin feels pain going right to his mind. He's taking 10 points of psychic damage. He falls to his knees, and as we stumble out into the alleyway, we end the session. Now we know, he thinks to himself. Odin thinks to himself. He says, he owns us, referring to the Sewer King. Willie Pete passes out. And that is the last game of a Debt to a Friend we're going to have for 2 weeks, because our DM is going to the Commonwealth Games, which is not as fun or important as tabletop or video games, unless they are the Commonwealth tabletop or video games. I don't know. Good session. We made some progress. I will admit, I think I've said this before, but I'm a big fan of sewer levels, and it's descriptions like this that make it worth it. One more thing, I don't know who watches these videos. These get a lot more views than my Lost Man of Phandelver videos, which in a way I think is strange, because Lost Man of Phandelver is a more established adventure. Then again, maybe that's why, because people think, what's... Well, we know what the Lost Man of Phandelver is, but what's this Debt to a Friend business? I want to begin by saying that what happened in this session with combat starting with the Sewer King, that player and my DM have spoken, and that's the end of the business. I'm not going to see any comments about this. I'm not going to see this on RPG Horror Stories. I'm not going to be going, I'm not going to see this in the Discord. This has been talked about by the two parties that it matters to only. Anything else I don't know about. I'm simply here to recap the story, and of course, when it's me, I do editorials, and I'm usually an asshole about it. So, that's the session for me. So yeah, hopefully the next session will go a bit smoother. I wasn't overly pleased with Odin's actions. I was in stunned silence I was going to ask what's in this stuff, now that we're branded. But that's now no longer a possibility. So, I've had to come up with some plans. The plan I have so far is Operation Gnome Return. So the following day I came up with this idea. 1. I'm going to write a letter in Gnomish. It's unlikely, but not impossible, that the cultists and Goric can read the language if they're looking through our eyes. If they can thanks to this spell, I'll soon find out. The details of the note will be worked out later, but basically it will be asking my mother to translate it into common and seal it in an envelope. This will be a warning for Captain Jansen. We're marked, he's got some spies in our midst, but he knows the location. But we know the location. A secret wall in the Skull Club Tavern and a lift to the docks. Be wary of a particularly annoyed Otiug. Send proof, so then I'm going to tell him to send proof of his death to the bakery and I'll pick it up. The second phase then is to have Nero, can speak with animals be deciphered by this spell, or Rigsby deliver the message and await its return. I'll put on my commissariat disguise and go to the building asking to see Captain Jansen. I'll deliver the note and I hope to God that doesn't set off alarm bells in Goric's head, which will put set off alarms in mine. Seeing as we all very nearly died, I'm willing to bet that this move may kill me. Better me than the whole party. I deliver this message, go down, and you can tell Goric that you didn't know I was actually with the commissariat. If this puts an end to the Sewer King, I've at least saved the city in some way, served the city in some way, and that's all I can ask for. The only alternative to this plan is perhaps sending Nero to find some friendly druids and potentially identify and lift the curse, but he may be tailed by the Sewer King's Blood Eagle. I don't know if I was correct. Or worse. We may need to use either the butcher shop as a hideout or plan further at the orphanage to cook up the meat. Excuse me. We've got 2 weeks to plan, so no need to worry about it now. Best of luck, chums. So, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, the thing is if I write this letter in Gnomish, and I immediately take the psychic damage, we're rumbled. That means that at least I am identified as a threat. And I don't think the party's really going to be able to fake my death, because they're all being watched. Like, the way I imagine this spell working is, like, they can see through my eyes. They can see through my eyes in perfect, peripheral vision and whatnot. They can hear every conversation. My worry is they can see every language and hear every spoken word, including speak with animals. So we're gonna have to. That's my only plan, though. I will plan further, but my plan mostly involves using Rigsby and Nero, who haven't got the blood rune on them. But I need to know how this spell works. It's already done a lot of damage. There is a saving throw, thank goodness. Fortunately, my saving throws against magic don't work for Constitution. They work for Intelligence, Charisma, and Wisdom. Oh dear. We'll figure it out. But yeah. I'm hoping the next session will go better. Katyusha has lost a lot of trust in Odin's judgment, but out of respect for the players, because I know that, like, speaking from experience, I've had lapses in judgment in the Lost Man of Phandelver. Our DM as a player had lapses in judgment by hanging a man from a bell tower. We're all new to D&D. These things happen, but yeah, hopefully things will be a bit more under control next time. But now we've got the worst of both worlds. We've now been marked by this man. We're in his poor graces, and I went against my judgment of talking to the Red Crests, Captain Jansen, about actionable intelligence, because Odin the Raven Olfheim had a theory, and I trusted that theory. We'll see how things go. I do look forward to the next session. This hasn't ruined it for me at all. But yeah, what a shocker. I'm gonna get off. Thank you ever so much for watching. Take care. That's that for now.